Hey, welcome back everybody. Today we are going to be talking about maximizing enjoyment, less stress, and money on your Disney World trips. But before we get into that, let me give you a little bit of background. We went on a 10-day Disney World trip before heading out to Canada recently. If you are wondering what the heck I'm talking about, you can see that video here. On this most recent trip, we got on all the rides we wanted to go on, visited all the parks we wanted to go to, and ate at all the places we wanted to eat without breaking the budget. If you've never met us before, we are the Huntingtons. We like to adventure and travel around. We have been to Disney World and Disneyland most of our lives while never having lived in California or Florida. So if you are looking for information on hotels to stay at, ways to travel with kids, and what to do at Disney World, you are in the right place. Okay, first thing I want to talk about is where to stay. This is a big deal because if you've been to Disneyland, you probably know that you can stay off property and it's still be able to walk to Disneyland, and it's often cheaper. You can stay at hotels where you have points or where you have good status and stuff like that. This is not the case at Disney World. I know some of you are going to think that this is a plug for Disney hotels, but it is not. I highly recommend staying on property at one of the Disney resorts or at one of the Good Neighbor hotels located inside the Disney World boundaries. You guys, Disney World is like the size of San Francisco. If you're thinking you're gonna be able to stay just outside of Disney World and still get to where you want to get to, you are sorely mistaken. If you stay outside of Disney World, it is going to take you 30 minutes to drive into each park. You cannot walk from park to park. You have to take buses or drive. So if you are staying outside of Disney World, you will need to rent a car. If you stay at any of the Disney resorts, even the cheap ones, they have very effective, efficient, free transportation to and from the parks. You also get early morning entry to any of the parks if you stay at the Disneyland resorts, even the cheap ones. There are 3 types of Disney World resorts. There are the value resorts, moderate resorts, and deluxe resorts. All of them have the same basic features: pool, place to eat, and rooms to stay in. The moderate resorts add a water slide, and the deluxe resorts have water slide, hot tub, and also an exercise area. So unless you care about having a gym at your hotel or care about water slides or hot tubs, it doesn't really matter what resort you stay in, whether it's moderate, value, or deluxe. The only major benefit that I see for staying at a deluxe resort is the extra magic hours in the evening at some of the parks during the week, where you can stay at specific parks on specific days for 2 hours, sometimes more extra, with nobody else in the park. Okay, if you have any questions or comments about places to stay, leave them below. We are now going to move on to length of your trip. So I think it's really hard for people who have never been to Disney World to understand just how big it is. If you've been to Disneyland, you know you can take a day, 2 days, 3 days and see everything there is to see between Disneyland and California Adventure without any problem. It is definitely not that way with Disney World. You guys, I cannot emphasize enough how huge Disney World is. So we have done all of the parks in Disney World in one day, but you basically have to pick one ride in each park that you really want to do. So if you want to do everything in each of the parks, you need a minimum of like 5 days. We generally like to go to each of the parks that we enjoy the most twice, so that we have a chance to go on the rides that we like the best at least once, and we can switch off the next time we go. We can go on the rides that we missed the first time. Okay, now let's talk about what parks you should visit. Obviously, I think that you should visit each park at least once. Then you can decide which ones you like the best, which ones have the rides that you want to do the most, and go back to those ones a second time. Let's take a second to talk about Genie Plus. I think this is a big deal because a lot of people use Genie Plus. We do not use Genie Plus. I know it's called something else now, but the reason we don't use it is because with the strategy that we have for the order of rides that you should go on, we don't need to use Genie Plus. So that way you save money and you also save time. With that, let's talk about the most important thing, at least in my view, the actual strategies for visiting each of the parks. Here's the basic strategy, and if you would like a strategy specifically for each park, let me know in the comments, because we do have a specific ride strategy, which rides to go on first, second, third, etc. for each park. If you have little kids who are too small to ride certain rides, take advantage of rider switch passes. Basically what this does for you is it makes it so that whoever stayed off with the kids who are too small to ride has the ability to get on the ride without waiting through the line again. These change occasionally, so I would definitely talk to a cast member sitting at the rides to find out how it's working right now. The next thing I want to mention really quick is virtual queues. There are some rides, and usually they're the newest rides in each park, that require a virtual ticket that saves your place in line for that ride sometime during the day. You have to wake up early to get these, and they are important if you want to ride certain rides. The rides that require virtual queues change from time to time. So if you go to the Disney World website and type in virtual queues, there's all the information that you need for virtual queues on there. There are basically two methods for getting on the busiest rides in the parks at any Disney park, and one of them is rope dropping. So let's talk about that next. To have a successful rope drop, you do not need to be the first one in line at the turnstiles to enter the park. However, at Disney World, they do not open the gates at the posted time when the park opens. They usually open it fairly early. I mean, like sometimes even 30 minutes early. So you have to make sure that you are at the entrance to the park where you scan in your magic band or your ticket at least 30 minutes in advance. Okay guys, let's take a few minutes to talk about rides at the parks. I know it's a real huge bummer when you don't get on all the rides that you wanted to do at any specific park, especially since you only have a limited amount of time at each park. Okay, so here it is. Here's the strategy. If you know what rides you want to go on the most, pick the ride that you want to go on most and go on that first. Then the one you want to go on second, go on that second, etc., etc. If you have never been to Disney World and you don't know what rides you like the best, go on the most popular ride first, then the next most popular ride, etc., etc. For instance, in Animal Kingdom, we always ride Flight of Passage first. Then we go straight to the safari ride because Flight of Passage is always the busiest ride. The safari is also very busy, and the animals are almost active at breakfast time or when the sun is going down. So then after that, we go to Expedition Everest. And then next you can go to whatever rides you want in whatever order you want. This strategy holds true for us almost every time. The exception would be when there's a new ride or a new attraction coming to a certain park. Then the strategy might have to change just a little bit. The other thing that we do without fail is go back to the hotel in the middle of the day to either take a nap or some sort of a break. The parks are always the busiest, in the middle of the day, and it's not worth waiting in the lines to get on rides then. We'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about food in the parks. But yeah, so go home in the middle of the day, take a break. We usually come back in the late afternoon or in the evening and either go to the same park or a different park to finish up the rides we didn't get to do in the morning. That very last hour before the park closes is basically a golden hour where you can get on pretty much any ride you want and nothing is busy pretty much at all. Okay, the last thing that we need to talk about is eating in the parks. This is another really difficult one for people who've been to Disneyland but not to Disney World, is that Disneyland, everything is super close. You can walk in and out of the park. There's fast food 5 minutes away just outside the entrance, but Disney World is huge. It's basically the same size as Rhode Island, you guys, so like really, really big. You either have to eat inside the parks or eat at your hotel room. So here is what we do. What I'm about to tell you can change a little bit depending on which resort you're staying at. If you're staying at a higher end resort, you'll have a kitchen with a full-size fridge and stuff like that. If you're staying at the lowest resorts, you'll just have like a mini fridge. So that can change a little bit what you do. But you also have access to a toaster and a microwave in the main cafeteria that's usually by the front desk and the hotel store and stuff like that. Okay, what we usually do is eat some sort of a breakfast at the hotel room and then have a reservation for a sit-down restaurant in the parks. And then we will, when we go back to take our nap in the middle of the day before we go back in the evening, we will have dinner at our hotel room again. We usually accomplish this with some sort of food delivery. We have done several different ones, but lately we've been doing Amazon food delivery. Now, we have looked at doing the Disney dining plans several different times because we think it would be fun mostly and easy, but we always find that we do not spend as much on food as it costs to get the Disney dining plan. Ryan and I usually share a meal because we can get by with that, and the kids usually get a kids meal each. We also make sure that we bring in snacks in a backpack with us. We bring in popcorn, granola bars, fruit roll-ups, that kind of stuff. Obviously, you will have to budget for the way that your family likes to eat, and you will have to budget for food at Disney World. There's really not a way around that. Ooh, guys, there's one more thing I forgot to mention. We actually do splurge on one thing at the resort hotels, and that is the souvenir cup. It's like $20 to $25 for this souvenir cup, but it is refillable refillable for the entire time of your stay, as many times as you want. We love it. We use it before we go to the parks. We use it when we come back from the parks. I use it to get rid of my headaches from carrying a backpack around in the parks. So that is one thing that we do splurge on. Even Ryan Trahan got a couple when he and his wife went to Disney World. Okay, guys, that is basically it. That is our basic overview of how we do Disney World every time to make it less stressful and to be able to get on all of the rides we want to get on. It does require a little bit of planning ahead of time if you've never been before, just to do some research on the rides in the parks and what you want to do, depending also on the ages of your kids, how tall they are, if they can go on all the big roller coasters or not. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer anything and to do additional videos if there's more information that you need. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.